Very difficult situation in Spain. High unemployment, over 50% of young people unemployed, tremendous migration to, for example, Britain, other countries. How do you see your observation, how Spain is going in the labour market?
Well, I don't think, Spain might be in a worse situation than others. It might be in a better situation than yet others. And I think for all of Western countries, there is a big problem that we are trying to solve the 21st century problems using the 20th century mechanisms. So we are still trying to operate manufacturing organizations, and what is needed is very agile service organizations. So largely what you can say is that what we've done in the 20th century is we've managed to make manufacturing globally distributed process of extreme efficiency and effectiveness. And that has led us to be able to buy things very cheaply. And we can get lots of different variety of products. The next level, or the 21st century, will be about services, and they will be required to be highly personalized. They will be required to be very cheap in the same way as manufacturing goods have become cheap. And the only way to do that is to think completely different about how things are done. So the only way you can get highly personalized, high quality, yet cheap services is through automating the process of delivering them and to render them possible for self-service. So let's take an example, that the iPhone or the Android phone that a lot of us are using on a daily basis. These smartphones, they are really clever because they allow us to decide what we want on them. We do all the work ourselves. Apple provides us with a supermarket of possibilities, and then we do all the work. So the problem in this automation and self-service is there isn't a lot of jobs in that. So we have to find new ways of creating new and innovative jobs, maybe even sectors that can kickstart economies around the old world. Because as it looks now, whenever Facebook get another 2 million customers, they don't get a lot of more staff. And in the old manufacturing world, we were used to every time a company would sell much more of its goods, it would have to employ many more people. And even worse so, in manufacturing, there was a lot of people who could aspire to being middle class and therefore represent a lot of tax revenue to the state. Increasingly, we cannot rely on that anymore, that there is a reduced middle class in terms of income as a result of this movement. So there's a polarization. So I'm afraid I can't give an optimistic message, but that might mainly be down to the fact that I'm not a young person. If I was a young person, I would be forced to be optimistic, and I would therefore find a creative way out of this. As it is now, I only see the possibility of us being much better and being agile and delivering new and innovative services in a very cheap manner by automation and self-service. And in most of Europe, we are not doing enough on that. All the innovation on that is done all over the place, but mostly successful by American companies. And we need to be better at that. So we need to educate more people to do that, to be more prone to understand business needs and customer needs.
The majority of Spanish parents, due to the Civil War, the sacrifices that parents had to make over recent years, every single Spanish parent wanted their children to go into university, do a university degree. There are more lawyers coming out in Spain than there are in the whole of Europe, for example. But when you look at other countries, like in the United States, take New York, for example, being a plumber is a highly qualified and very well-paid job. To find a good electrician, also a good mechanic. Many young people, unfortunately, are not looking at those careers, where those careers can offer not only a job, a professional job, but obviously the possibilities to travel outside Spain if they wanted to.
Yes, so this is very interesting. When I grew up, somebody coined the term, it's better to have a big driver's license to drive a lorry than a small university degree, in a sense that you could then very readily make money. Now, it's not so simple because quite recent statistics also shows in America that you have a linear relationship between your life income and your educational level. So even in America, there is a relationship between how much you study and how much you earn, and it's quite clear. The question is whether that will stay in the future, and this is maybe the more questionable thing, because it depends on what you study. If you study things that suddenly become amenable to automation, then you might be in severe trouble because your work is now taken over by computer technology. And some people argue that a lot of even highly skilled jobs will be amenable to that kind of automation. We haven't quite seen it yet, but if we just go back 10 years ago and look at what happened 10 years ago, we were not able to really predict with any confidence of what is happening now. So I would be very careful about trying to predict too much about what happens in the next 10 years. But it's clear there's going to be a relatively small elite of people who are highly educated that will be in incredible demand because they can do things that are key to whatever industrial endeavor in the service society we are engaged in. But there will also be a large group of people who perhaps will not achieve their ambitions in terms of using their education. But I think, think of yourself as a startup. You have to be pragmatic. Whatever will yield the right result, you need to do. And I think the problem is if you commit resources and your time to study something at university that doesn't give you an immediate job, then the only way to deal with this is to be flexible. Now, when I grew up in Denmark, when I went to university, lots of people studied things that there wasn't any employment in, but they then got other jobs. So I think the most important thing is to be really good at what you do. That's much more important in that sense than what you study, because I don't think there are any clear future-proof professions, although some people say that statistics will be one of the future professions. But there is no guarantee. There's global competition. You cannot assume that you can be the best programmer in Spain and not be outcompeted by 500 people from somewhere else. That's the problem. That is really the problem. But I think on a positive note, the more personalized, the more detailed services need to wrap around individuals, the more important it becomes that you know the culture. So it is unlikely that somebody in India or China or Brazil or Russia will be an expert in understanding what makes Spanish people tick, what they would want, what kind of services, what kind of support they want. So local knowledge and local insight is extremely important. The problem is I don't see a vast amount of jobs to replace the ones that goes away. It's a fundamental problem that will cause an issue on redistribution, I'm sure. But all the best of luck to all of us in Europe.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to Madrid in Spain with the Fundación Orestes. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.